Hi, it's Phil here. Welcome to another weekly check-in. So this week I spent a little bit of time building a prototype REPL for the object database, and that allowed me to do a little bit of exploratory testing. And so this week has been mostly picking up more bugs and sort of carving those out. I'm pretty happy with the next. I'm pretty happy with the end and the begin. And I'm just working on the previous now, and that seems to be the last little part. The other things that I worked on this week were I wanted to, so a lot of the APIs were taking this metadata object that in the initial stages I thought was a good idea, but now I've decided that it was just exposing inappropriate information about the state of the B tree, and it was easy to misuse because it had state that was coming out and that you had to put back in and basically reevaluate before you used it to make sure that it was still up to date. So I've moved all of those cases back inside of the methods that need that information. And actually I'm thinking of, so at the moment it gets all of that metadata out of a blob that it stores in memory, which basically how it's represented on disk, how the node is represented on disk. I'm thinking of, that's not a very nice thing to use for debugging, to see what the values and bits and pieces are, because you have to go and look at the bytes and sort of interpret them, and that's a bit of a pain, quite unergonomic. So I'm thinking of moving those out. The other thing I did was that I've just started the process of abstracting away how you compare a key with another key, and I've done that by adding a functor that you pass into the B tree as you're performing those operations. And what that means is that it doesn't know how to compare keys itself, but that imagine you had a schema with a bunch of different types in a key. Well, you can supply that and it will do the job for you. It's in a template, and the idea with that was that it will be efficient to do, but probably actually that will be substituted at runtime anyway. So I don't know, maybe it will be helpful for the stock stuff that's inside the data structure that I use for basically everything. Perhaps not. Perhaps that's only going to be useful. Yeah, I'm not sure. It did mean that I had to move some of the implementations out of the, because if you've got a template, then you need to include the method body, and so that had to go from the CPP file up into the header file and into the class header, so that the bodies were available for when you call it. And that, I'm a bit torn about it. I think that it'll probably be efficient, and it's probably a worthwhile change. So that looks good. Very close to saying I'm happy with the B tree, and I'm tempted to release that thing as a thing in its own right. So watch the space. Like if you're interested in using this, then take a look at the GitHub, and there'll probably be a release sometime this week with just the B tree in it for the source code. And there's a bunch of other cruft that I built, mostly prototype code, which actually isn't ready for anything other than just thinking about stuff at this point. So I'm thinking of taking that out of the repository basically altogether, and just stripping it right down to just what I'm happy with, and shipping that in the release. So that's probably going to drop sometime this week, and if you like what I'm doing, let me know.